Morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Online Summit. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another amazing speaker. These last few days have been absolutely phenomenal, meeting women from all over the world, sharing their stories. And I want to start off by, first of all, acknowledging the land on which we meet today. I want to pay my respects to our elders, past, present, and emerging, and to extend that respect to all First Nations people who are joining us from all over the world. Our first speaker today is an amazing woman. Lauren is a holistic wellness coach and the founder of Empowered Roads. I think it's important for us to give you a visual of this amazing woman who is going to be sharing her story to open up day 5 of the Her Story Online Summit. It's incredible that we've been going for so many days. So Lauren is a coach who's dedicated to helping ambitious and high-achieving women with autoimmune diseases to reclaim their health, their energy, and confidence. After being diagnosed with multiple autoimmune conditions, she found herself burnt out, unsupported, frustrated by the gaps in traditional care. She now combines her personal journey with professional coaching tools to guide others through these trying and emotional experiences. Lauren, thank you so much for being with us today. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Gertrude, for the introduction, as well as the opportunity to be part of the summit alongside so many tremendous women. My name is Lauren Goldstein. I'm based in Colorado, and I'm the founder of Empowered Roads. I help ambitious women with autoimmune disease adopt strategies and tools to create a life that works with their body, not against it, so they can feel confident, capable, and in control again. But this work didn't start in a classroom or a clinic. It started in a doctor's office and subsequently the emergency room when I was just 18. I was told I had an autoimmune disease and that I was handed a prescription and sent on my way. No roadmap, no real explanation for why I was so tired all the time, why my hands and feet were so swollen I couldn't move, why my brain felt like it was full of fog, or why I kept feeling like I was too much and not enough all at the same time. That diagnosis became a turning point, not just for my health, but for my entire life. I went on to build a career in fashion in New York City and then transitioned into tech in Silicon Valley, all while trying to manage something that no one else around me could see and very few people understood. 2 years ago, I became a certified holistic wellness coach, not because I had it all figured out, but because I realized how much I was missing, not only when I was first diagnosed, but in the years that followed. Finishing college, building a career, navigating relationships, and exploring other ways to heal my body. In so many areas, I was flying blind. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about today, how isolating this path can feel, how often we're misunderstood, and how important it is to find both your voice and your community. Living with an autoimmune disease can feel profoundly isolating, not just because of the symptoms, but because of how often we're dismissed and misunderstood. For many of us, it begins in a doctor's office. We walk in desperate for answers, only to walk out with more questions. We look fine on the outside. Our lab results are, quote, good enough. And we're told just to reduce stress, try a new diet, or my personal favorite, maybe it's just in your head. That kind of dismissal, especially from the people we're supposed to trust, can be devastating. It forces us to fight for our own voices to be heard. And when you're already exhausted from living in a body that doesn't cooperate, that fight can feel unbearable. So we turn to our circles, our friends, our families, hoping for comfort. And while the intentions are good, the reality often stings. Hearing, just try yoga, you'll feel better, or, oh, my grandmother has arthritis too, reduces a complex, invasive disease to simple comparison. What we hear beneath those words is, they don't really understand. What we can feel at the same time is, I don't know how to explain this. And then there's the emotional weight, the part that most people never see. Autoimmune disease doesn't just attack your immune system, it attacks your sense of identity. There's grief for the version of yourself who existed before your diagnosis. There's diminished self-worth when you can't keep up the way you used to, or when fatigue steals your best intentions. Then there's the uncertainty and anxiety about the future. Will I be able to keep my job, build a family? Will my symptoms get worse? What really is life going to look like? These emotions pile up silently, pushing us further onto our own little island where we feel like no one can reach us. But here's what I've learned and what I want everyone listening to know. We're not meant to do this alone. The antidote to isolation is community. Not just sympathy, because sympathy says I feel sorry for you, but empathy, because empathy says I get it. I've been there too. Or in my case, I'm still on this journey with you. When you find a community that understands what it means to cancel plans last minute because you literally can't move, to advocate for yourself again and again in exam rooms, or to grieve the old version of yourself while still fighting for the new one, that's when everything really shifts. Suddenly, you're not crazy. You're not weak. You're not alone. You're part of something bigger. And that sense of belonging, the shared strength, can be just as healing as any treatment plan. And this is exactly why my work, and honestly my own healing, has led me towards holistic wellness. Now, these days, holistic wellness is everywhere. But one of the strongest convictions I have is this: holistic wellness isn't just a trend, it's a necessity. Because when you're dealing with something as invasive and layered as autoimmune disease, you can't just treat the symptoms. You can't just hand someone a prescription and send them home. True healing means looking at the whole person, their routines, their relationships, their nervous system, dreams, goals, and yes, even the parts of them that they're grieving. Holistic wellness isn't about just green juice or spa days as much as we enjoy them. It's about care that actually acknowledges every part of who you are, physically, emotionally, mentally, so you can live fully and not just function. Because when we really think about the whole person, again, priorities, their whys, dreams, goals, these things don't just disappear because you've been diagnosed. Taking myself as an example, I've always worked towards a career. I've wanted to travel, to build a strong circle of friends, to nurture relationships with my family, to create a home. None of these things went away because of my autoimmune disease. Do they look a little bit different? Sure. But are they out of reach? Absolutely not. 18 years ago, sitting in that emergency room, I thought they would be. I didn't see a path for living life on my terms on top of specialist visits, medications, x-rays, blood work every 6 to 8 weeks. It felt crushing to think about everything I now had to do to manage my condition, stacked on top of everything I still wanted to do. It took me years, and honestly more years than I'd like to admit, to realize, yes, I have an autoimmune disease, but no, I'm not less than I was before. I'm not a different person at heart, and I'm still deserving of having big dreams. And that belief that autoimmune disease changed my path, but never really took away my right to live fully and on my terms, is the motivation behind Empowered Roads. It's why I share my story. 18 years ago, I thought my diagnosis meant the end of my life as I imagined. What I've learned since, and what I hope women out there with autoimmune disease hearing this take from my story, is that diagnosis doesn't erase your dreams. It just simply asks you to live them differently. And if there's one thing I want you to carry forward from today, it's this: you're not your illness. You're not your lab results, your flares, your fatigue, your canceled plans. You're still the woman with goals, passion, and a voice that matters. The transformation begins when you give yourself permission to redefine what wellness looks like for you, create boundaries that protect your energy and your future, and honor your needs as much as you honor your ambition. Holistic wellness isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about aligning your life, your routines, your relationship, your mindset with what keeps you strong, safe, and whole. So as you leave this summit, I invite you to ask yourself, what's one shift I can make this week that moves me closer to a life that supports me, not just demands of me? Because the truth is, you don't have to choose between your health and your dreams. With the right tools, support, and community, you can build both on your terms. Thank you.
Wow, Lauren, what a journey you've been on. It's just absolutely incredible what women go through in life. and having to learn to advocate for yourself. And now you're empowering so many other women to do the same thing. A lot of times we're dismissed when you go in and you are trying to look for help. You're told you're a hypochondriac.
Yes.
It's very, very sad to hear what happens to women.
It is. I
So,
think, especially in the United States with healthcare, kind of the way it is, doctors having to see a certain number of patients, it can feel a little churn and burn. You're in there, you see the provider for a couple of minutes, and you walk out kind of like, what just happened? Did I really just finish my appointment? And I think autoimmune disease has so many layers and there's so many components, and it can kind of present so many different ways in different people. It just opens a kind of Pandora's box of questions that it's hard to find answers to.
now you've spoken about those first 10 years being destructive and isolating. What were some of the hardest challenges that you faced during that time?
There are lots. I think one of the hardest ones was just coming to terms with what my new reality was like. And I touched on kind of the grief element of the diagnosis process. And I think in a lot of ways, because I was so unclear about what my future would look like, all I was holding on to is my life up until that point. I was an athlete in high school and college, and then woke up and basically couldn't move my body. And that whole kind of complete 180 from where I was like kind of permeated into other areas of my life and introduced all that the self-doubt, the uncertainty, and then circling back to the grief, just not knowing what the future would be like. I just felt so less than I was. And could I still show up the same way for my family and friends? Could I still do the things that I wanted to do? It was just such a black box of uncertainty that it really kind of gets to the bottom of the hole. And it's a lonely place to be. And I think not knowing anyone at that point in my life who had autoimmune disease could speak to what it was like, to speak to how do you manage so many new appointments, procedures, x-rays, kind of all those things on top of life. It was just terrifying in a lot of ways.
I can't begin to imagine. Now, how did you manage to build a demanding career in fashion and tech, including at Google, while living with multiple diagnoses?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, I pushed and pushed and pushed until my body finally said enough. And that kind of I had to take medical leave from work. I had to really reevaluate what I was putting my body through from a stress level, hours I was working, pace, mental load, all of those things, and really think about what is my body telling me. And in a lot of ways, the biggest thing it was telling me was work smarter, not harder. And that, I think, is a phrase a lot of women out there in corporate will hear. It's kind of a different way to think about what you're doing over the course of the day. So some things that I changed in my life personally is I know in the morning I'm going to be the freshest. I stack my meetings, stack kind of big chunks of work that require more brain power in the mornings, and then make sure I build breaks in the afternoon. So I think a lot of it is understanding what your body is telling you. Yeah. And leveraging that and how you build your day as much as you can. And a lot of times that can just look like get up for 5-10 minutes, actually take a lunch, sit outside, take a walk, those small things that can really just make such a shift in your energy levels and focus and clarity that you have, especially as you go through the day, I think is really important.
It's absolutely crucial to know how to listen to your body and what it needs, right?
100%. And I think boundaries play a lot into that as well. Really understanding how much can I give? And especially with autoimmune disease, that can be so variable. How much you can give on a specific day could look different from day to day. So I think acknowledging that and giving yourself the grace to say, okay, today I'm feeling great. I could push just a little bit harder. Or, hey, today I'm really not feeling it. I'm going to do just what I can do. And that has to be enough. And having that be okay, not for your employer, but for you personally, especially when you're building a career in whatever industry, or you have a family, you have kids, you have all these responsibilities, this expectation that you can keep hustling through and keep pushing and keep going doesn't work all the time when you've got autoimmune disease, because at some point your body's going to tell you enough, and it's not going to be in a way that you can control.
So at what point did you shift from fighting your body to working with it? And what changed as a result?
Yeah, I think this was a couple years ago for me, and I think the biggest kind of trigger point for that change was base sitting, I think it was over a weekend, and just taking everything in and being like, this isn't the way I should be living. This doesn't
Mhm.
feel like this is it. There has to be more. There has to be something else out there. And that really sent me on my journey of understanding what holistic wellness is, doing my certification, exploring different ways to support my body with red light therapy and chiropractic care and different supplements and all these kinds of things that are out there, but still a little bit of a gray area when it comes, especially in the US, to like regulations of certain things, what's information you can find, how clear is the information, things like that. It was really this whole kind of jumping off point for me to really think about what else is out there and think about what feels authentic to me and how I want to live my life and how do I get there.
So, what role has mindset and self talk played in your healing and resilience?
I would say it's played the biggest part
Mm,
in my journey. Yes, there's medications and there's things I still have to do, but the shift in mindset from it's not that my body is failing me, it's telling me to do things differently was
mhm,
the biggest change. And I think finally was the shift I needed for me to feel safe in my own body enough to take my healing to the next step. Because you mentioned it, negative self talk is something that I mean, growing up I was never exposed to what that really was. It was really something I uncovered on my kind of education journey. And that shift in saying, like, hey, body, I hear you. I'm going to listen to what you're telling me versus I'm going to ignore you is such a tremendous shift on how we feel physically, but also to your point, mindset wise and mentally, because so much of this is mental. When you're looking down the road of the rest of your life with a disease that you haven't had up until that point. Like for me, I was diagnosed at 18, didn't know anything. Like I was perfectly healthy again, athlete, doing all the things, like full course load in high school, all of the things. And then now all of a sudden I went from that to looking down this road of wow, I can't do so many of the things I used to be able to do. And the shift from I can't to I can but differently, I think
mm.
is really, really important and honestly the most pivotal change that I've had in my journey.
Yeah. And, when you talk about negative self talk, they say that we say things to ourselves that you would never say to your best friend.
Mhm.
We are so hard on ourselves as women. Catching yourself when that little voice starts playing, I think is one of the most pivotal things that I've learned anyway through my healing journey after I was recovering from heart failure. So a lot of work needs to be done there.
100%. We say we're our own worst enemies, and I think that
Um,
manifests in a lot of different ways too. It's holding ourselves more accountable than we would ever anyone else, pushing ourselves
mhm,
harder than we would expect anyone else to kind of perform, and kind of really hits all aspects of life.
it does. Now, you mentioned that people with chronic illness go through a kind of grief process for their old self.
Mhm.
Can you unpack that?
Yeah, I think there's lots of layers to it. I think when you're diagnosed, especially later in life, it's not something that you've grown up with. You lived your life a certain way up until kind of that big transition point of your diagnosis. And a lot of times like change is hard, change is scary. It kind of brings with it, whether it's any type of change really has all these
Mm,
other emotions. And when you're kind of looking at your path forward as something so drastically different than the path that you've walked up until that point, whether it's physical capabilities, mental load. Brain fog is a really big thing that impacts a lot of people with autoimmune disease. And you just don't feel like you're as sharp as you used to be. And
yeah,
this grief of thinking about everything you used to do, or the way you used to perform, or the way you used to manage responsibilities, or whatever kind of lens you're taking, can really just be a gut punch for lack
mm,
of a better word. All of a sudden you're used to everything happening a certain way and you have to change pretty much every aspect of the way you're living your life because physically you're having flares. Your chronic fatigue is a completely different animal than just being tired, and figuring out one what that feels like and how to manage it
yeah.
is really hard. And then you start putting boundaries or bounds around what you can do in a day. So before, let's like your personal life can be packed weekends, doing all the things, hitting the gym, seeing friends, doing so many things. And then with your diagnosis, maybe that list goes from maybe the 10 things you wanted to get done, and it cuts down to the 5, or it cuts down to the 2. And thinking about what you used to be able to do to what you can do now, I think, to our previous point, feeds into the negative self-talk and feeds into, well, I used to be able to do it and now I can't do it now, so I must be less. And that train of thought is so dangerous and can be such a block to healing. I mean, for me, it took 10 years to get my head around that.
Now, community seems to be central to your mission. Why do you believe connection and validation are as important as medical treatment?
Yeah, I think, great question. I think it's huge, especially with these types of diseases or really any sort of chronic illness that isn't something that's visible. And it's not something that's always going to present the same way on blood work. And it's not something that you can really put in a predefined box. Having to constantly advocate for yourself and say, like, no, this doesn't feel right, or no, I'm not feeling right, even though my blood work looks normal. And all those types of conversations can be really defeating and really disheartening when that's kind of the hamster wheel that you're on. So having community and being around people who get it because they're in the chair with you, not just a doctor telling you, oh, well, you should feel better. It's, oh, actually, I tried that medication, or I tried this workout routine, or I tried this diet. This was my experience. This is how it helped me, or this is how it didn't help me. But having people in the chairs next to you because they're living it versus opposite you trying to support you, I think you get a different level of, you relate to people in a different way. For me, being a coach of women with autoimmune disease, while still I'm up to 3 diagnoses right now. It's just, I think I bring a little bit of a different lens, because there's going to be days where I flare, and that might mean a pushed out appointment or a delay, or however that may manifest. We all still have our days. And I think being able to relate to someone on a deeper level, because I'm still living it, I think helps build that community.
It does. Now, over 80% of people with autoimmune conditions are women. Why do you think women are so disproportionately affected? And how does gender bias show up in diagnosis and treatment?
Yeah, I think women, especially, thinking about it kind of in the lens of society, we're supposed to be the nurturers, the foundations, kind of the people taking care of everyone else. And so often we neglect what we need. So the way that can manifest is chronic stress, like being in fight or flight all the time, putting all this additional strain on our bodies that ultimately forces our body out of the way we should be operating into just basically staying at this elevated, basically flight mechanism, where we're not actually able to take a step back and let our bodies rest and let our bodies take kind of the pause that it needs and replenish and nourish and take a pause. And women are expected to do everything for everyone. And we often, I think, neglect ourselves when it comes to what we really need, our stress levels, how are we sleeping, how is our nutrition, our hydration, kind of all of these things. And once your nervous system kind of gets out of whack because you're constantly in fight or flight mode, it's really hard to kind of put yourself back into balance unless you're really being intentional with, no, this level of stress is not what I should be operating at, or I need to bring this down, or even having the awareness to say, these things in my life aren't serving me best. How do I kind of put the bounds around that? But I think that's not something that, let's say, society lets women do. The expectation is build a career, have a family, hustle, keep going, support everyone. And the second we say, oh, I need some space, or I need to take a minute for me, I think that narrative often flips to, well, why? Or you shouldn't be thinking about yourself. And I think it's a really hard shift for women to make, to put themselves first in certain situations.
The sad thing is that this is such a universal experience for women. It doesn't matter where you are, Europe, America, Africa, New Zealand, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So finally, if a listener is sitting with a fresh diagnosis today, is scared and overwhelmed, what are the first 3 steps that you would advise them to take?
Yeah, I would say, number 1, take a breath acknowledge how you're feeling, acknowledge the emotions coming up. Don't try to put it in a black box in the top of the closet. Everything you're feeling is valid, and give yourself the grace to acknowledge that.
Mm,
Number one, or excuse me, number two, find a provider that you feel comfortable being open with. I think we get caught with I started with this doctor, so I'm going to stay with this doctor. If it's not feeling right, if you're not getting the information you need, or you feel like you're not getting the time that you need, find someone else. It's a long journey. It's a long road. You're entitled to be given care by someone that you feel like has your best interest, and you're not just a number, and that's
yeah.
okay. And then number three is be honest with your circle, whether it's friends, family, community, whatever, whoever you've got around you supporting you. Be
Mhm.
honest with how you're feeling, with what you're going through, um, because masking it and trying to just gut through it comes up in weird ways kind of down the line, and can sometimes be more detrimental than just starting from a place of vulnerability.
Fantastic. Lauren, thank you so much for coming online and sharing your story with our community today. Absolutely incredible what you've done with your experience, and now how you're helping so many others and creating community and giving the support that's needed when a woman is going through this kind of a challenge. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks, Gertrude, for having me. I appreciate it.
It's an absolute honor to have had you. Thank you so much, Lauren. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Wow, so there we are. Another incredible story. The sad thing is, a lot of women go through health challenges. They feel isolated, they feel alone, and yet these conditions are more common than they are uncommon. But it's when we come together and we start supporting each other, we really make a difference. So, Lauren, I really love what you have done with your life. Our next speaker is coming in a minute. She's already here in the background waiting for me to introduce her. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Shanna. Shanna Bradford is a globally recognized master aromatherapist and medical aesthetics educator with 27 years in beauty and wellness industry. She's been featured in Healthy Living, Best Self, 60 Plus Me, and she specializes in essential oil formulations for whole body wellness, and recently presented groundbreaking research on lavender and sleep at the 2024 Sleep Wake Advisor Summit. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to our community. We're excited to have you with us to share your work and everything that you are doing to support women worldwide as well. And this is what I love about her story. We are always attracting women from different facets of life. So, Shana, the
Hi.
stage is yours.
Hi, Gertrude. Thank you for allowing me to take part in Her Story Summit. And, you know, it's really important to me that women have access to alternative modalities. I think, today the market has so many different products, there's so many different formulations. You have women that want to have the opportunity to speak to a holistic practitioner and also integrate that into maybe her protocol that she has with her physician. And so in my industry, I'm constantly um, interfacing physicians as well as your everyday woman that is looking for um, sometimes it's lifestyle changes. Sometimes it's a healing modality such as aromatherapy that can help her find support and also comfort. And so, a lot of times, um, being a woman that is going through any type of hormonal changes, I'm starting to see a lot of clients that are dealing with hormonal changes. And what that looks like is maybe you're not getting 8 hours of sleep. Sometimes that could also look like experiencing the process of hot flashes. And so, what I find in my company is that we're able to provide aromatherapy products, whether that be with a topical blend that they can use to calm the body down, and also relax the central nervous system so that it would help them relax and get the sleep that they need. And also with hormonal changes, women experience irritability sometimes. And that irritability can trickle into maybe even feeling depressed. And that's the reason why I really enjoy my job as a master aromatherapist, because it gives me the opportunity to not only bring that balance that the person is seeking, but giving them a product that is safe, it is sustainable, it has ingredients that are bioidentical, and the body recognizes it. And there's no toxic, there's no chemicals, there's nothing, no synthetics. Everything is 100% natural. That's really important for me and the patients that I see. A lot of times when you are going through any type of hormonal change, um, medication is always an option. And even with the patients that I deal with, I always make sure that they have their physicians, on board when they're trying a new aromatherapy treatment protocol, because that is really important. If they're on any type of medication, their physicians need to know that. I mean, the physician will know that they're on medication, but if they are, that's important for me to know, because then that way we can decide, are we going to recommend um, a detox, um, uh, Dead Sea salt bath for them. And if we're looking at different essential oil blends, what does that look like? Because with aromatherapy, aromatherapy is dealing with active constituents, which are alcohol functioning groups, and they are backed by science because they can have a very positive impact on the brain, the central nervous system, and also it can impact the olfactory, which is the part of the brain that's responsible for the psychological feeling that you have when you smell aromatherapy, when you smell aromas, and also it impacts your memory. And so everything kind of needs to go together so that we are able to support the person in the best way possible and get the best results with creating balance for them. um, I do have clients sometimes, they go and they buy products that are in the stores. These products are considered to be OTC. We call them over the counter products. And over the counter products, they're all formulated with a certain percentage of a active ingredient to only work at a superficial level. But when you have clients that are dealing with issues that are underlining issues, we find that they need a clinical product that is formulated differently so that it can be impactful, in a way that they are getting the results that they're looking for. And so I am really happy that I've had opportunities to be on international platforms, and I've worked with some of the top physicians that are in the dermatology sector, also plastic surgery. And I've had opportunity to work with physicians that, such as Dr. Lane Rowland, for example, one of the top virologists, epidemiologists. Also, his specialty was virology, and a U.S. military veteran. Um, he was also a expert in COVID the coronavirus and also biochemical warfare. And so his experience with being able to see how a virus moves and how people are actually exposed to different, bacteria, germs, allowed, me and my company and my team to be able to create a product that would be natural and also help mitigate against airborne particles and also surface areas without the use of chemicals, because a chemical can deactivate a virus, but it can also cause impact to the person that is inhaling some of these aromas or some of the chemical that is in certain products. And so we were really happy to be able to do a white paper showing the efficacy of, some of the antiviral hydrosol sprays that we have and how they actually interact with reducing viral load, but also just having a safety measure for people that were, looking for products that are safe to use around their children, safe to use around pets, and it's okay for them to breathe, the aromas in without causing any type of impact. And so I just wanted to highlight Dr. Rowland because he was very instrumental in helping us gather all those the important information to be able to have this white paper published with Herald Journal, which is a large publishing company that does open access for physicians, researchers, universities, and all the way across the board. Um, the other thing is, with everything that's going on right now, let's just refocus back on sleep. Lavender is one of the most, I would say, well known aromatherapy essential oils. And we're finding that more people are incorporating lavender into their sleep routine because it actually works as a sedative on the brain. And so when you look at the active constituents in lavender, you'll find linalool acetate. And linalool is actually an active alcohol functioning group. It has a alcohol index of 35%, so it's pretty high, and that is what causes the relaxation on the brain, and it puts you in a very comfortable mood. And, most gentlemen and also women, when I'm talking to them, they always reference to lavender because, it is very widely used in the industry. And it's one of the oils that it's a go to oil, but there's other oils that you can also incorporate that also have relaxing benefits as well, such as peppermint. Peppermint's very relaxing and uplifting. And when we are putting products together, we like to look at what the client is technically dealing with, what is their chief concern, and then we go from there to create a aromatherapy treatment protocol, which consists of different products that they're going to use throughout the day, and then actually taking note of what their experience was with the product and making any adjustments that we need to with the formulation or the product that they're actually leaving with to use at home. Aromatherapy, I think it's a business that has taken off. And, I'm really just happy to be at the forefront of all the innovative ingredients and all the innovation that comes behind, patient protocol, and also working with patients to help provide support for them. Um, the other thing that we're really happy about at Grow Out Oils is most recently we have launched a line of products that are tailored for pets, because pets also go through different experiences. If their owners are experiencing any type of anxiety, you'll find that the pet also experience some form of anxiety. And so we actually put products together that repel ticks and fleas, and they're 100% natural, 100% sustainable. We also have a spray that helps with separation anxiety. So we're able to give our patients, products for their pets. And that's a really great thing to be able to offer an alignment of suggested products for patients and also their pets as well. Um, and what else would I like to highlight? Well, another thing we've noticed that more people are looking for sustainable products, sustainable resources. And so we're really happy that we have the opportunity to work with um, farmers all over the globe to get our raw materials. And what's most important for us is that we use the highest purity and quality of raw materials, and also providing testing, because if a person is using a product topically, or they're going to be using it in their bath, it's really important that these products have the testing behind them, and that they're free of, heavy metals. They're free of pesticides. They're free of insecticides. They don't have any type of herbicides in them. Just the most efficacious ingredients to use um, for absorption and also detoxification. In today's market, there are a lot of products that are out on the market. And one of the things that I work with a lot of clients with being more aware, having more awareness of, is looking at the ingredient decks that are on the back of your products that you're selecting. Most people will look at the front of a product, and the front of the product is really just for marketing purposes. It really doesn't tell you a lot about what is actually in the product. And there's a lot of apps now too that you can download the app on your phone, and you can scan. The app will actually scan the back of the ingredient deck and tell you if there's any parabens or pesticides or runoffs that are in the product, so that you can make a conscious decision on, is this product for me? Is this something that I want to be using or bring home? And so, um, it's really important that you have more awareness when you're purchasing products, and whether that be food, whether that be, things that you're using on your face, any type of personal product, hair products. It's really good to take a look at what's on the back, so that you can know what you're putting in your body. Everything is absorbed through the skin, and believe it or not, all the way to your toothpaste, you are experiencing absorption of active ingredients. Some are good, some are not. But the most important thing is to make sure that you have the awareness, and that you're taking the time to really vet even the company that you're going to be using their product, just to make sure that they have the same goal in mind that you have when it comes to using personal care or clinical.
Wow. It's an interesting field that you have found yourself in, Shana. It
Yeah,
is just absolutely inspiring to see what you're doing.
thank you.
Now, let's talk a little bit about you and where you came from and what led you to all of this. I know that you have a very strong tie to your grandparents.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your childhood and share what it was like being raised by your grandparents.
Well, my grandparents were just amazing. I grew up in a Seventh-day Adventist home. My grandfather was very heavy in the church, him and my grandmother both. And my grandfather was an entrepreneur, so he was always the person that everyone looked for at church if they needed something fixed. And I think just having the opportunity with being around him all the time, it built up a level of service for your community, and also a level of being responsible for the people that come to you and they're looking for you know alternatives, or they're looking for answers to solve a problem. My grandmother was a very strong woman, very strict. And with her, I just learned to never give up. If there was something that you wanted to do, no one should be able to tell you that you can't do it. So I was never in a situation where I thought that I wanted to do something that I couldn't do, because I had both of them that were amazing examples of showing what strength looked like, what independency looked like, and also entrepreneurship. And so growing up with them, and then going to school, and then when I graduated out of high school and I enrolled into college, I was not focused on any of what I'm doing right now. I remember working for a company called Embassy School of Language, and I was working in their accounts payable department. And it was very stressful because you're doing like you're like realigning payments for all these students that are coming over, and you have to work on placing them into homes that are going to support them while they're going to school. And I just remember thinking I needed to do something that was fun, and I needed to do something that was different from that part of what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I started out thinking about, what would I do and what would be considered fun for me. And so I decided to go to school to do nails. And I went and I did the nails, and I was like, it's okay. I really learned how to take care of people's nails and what the importance of taking care of your feet. And then I thought about makeup. So then I took a, course on makeup, and I really liked it, the makeup part of it, but I was struggling with, issues with my skin, and the makeup was a great way to cover it up. But in reality, I still felt a certain way inside, like, what if I could just get my skin to just look nice and not have to wear makeup like that? And so then I decided to, go and take a, course for medical aesthetics. And being an esthetician, I worked at a couple of different big end day spas that were, looking for people to do skincare. Um, and then from that point, I took, a course for master aromatherapy at the American College of Healthcare Science, that led me to where I am right now. So I work
Okay.
a lot for a lot of different counters in the beauty industry, and I wind up in a perfect alignment, being able to service, being able to create formulations from a clinical perspective, also working with a lot of doctors and holistic practitioners, and it's a really good feeling.
Yeah, so Grow Out Oils has had quite a journey to get you here. Now, entrepreneurship often comes with setbacks. How do you personally navigate the challenges without giving up on your goals?
Well, working in the retail industry, I learned a lot of different things. And one of the things I learned was focusing on customers' behavior. And one thing I find very interesting is when you're engaging customers, a no might not necessarily mean no. A no might just mean I need more information in order for me to make a very conscious decision about a product. And so I remember once I was working at a counter, and I was like, where is everybody? They should be running over here to buy these products. But it wasn't that easy. And it took work. It took me having to step out of my comfort zone and actually going to the front and talking to clients and talking to customers and showing them the product, um, to the point where I stopped being, fearful or kind of shy about opening up about talking to people to get
Mm.
them to buy products from me. And it taught me a lot about, you know, uh, not being fearful, using the knowledge that you have and taking it and using it as an advantage to have conversations with people. And it made me a really good salesperson. Like I was making my numbers, selling product. And I remember just feeling good about, just having that different experience that allowed me to find a greater me.
Oh, I love it. So you have worn many, many, many hats.
I had,
And how do you weave all of these identities into your work today?
that's a really good question. I remember looking at my resume and I was thinking, wow, my resume has all this information on there, and how do I compress it and add the other things to it? And I remember, thinking, I said, well, it's really important to be transparent on all levels. Whether that is you're great at customer service, because customer service would transition over to sales and also in beauty. Um, but I think for the most part, the hats that I wear, I am really good with, changing them up when I need to.
Yeah.
Some of the accounts that I have as a company, they require, help with sales, help with
Mhm.
mirroring a product and what that looks like to introduce it to a client. And so
Yeah.
because I've worn so many hats, I'm really good with going in and I can actually see, maybe this is where my experience in sales will help the company grow their revenue, would help them increase their visibility with introducing something new to a client. And so I go in and do these one-on-ones,
Mm.
and it's appreciated. And so I think,
Yes.
just to answer your question, I just kind of navigate it however it comes. And just kind of see where I can, use the skills that I've acquired over time just to help other people drive their business and really give their clients something new and different.
So, in an industry that's focused on perfection, how do you use humor and storytelling to help women to embrace authenticity in both their outer and inner beauty?
You know, one of the things that I'm really big on is just, being yourself,
Mm.
and really loving who you are. When you love who you are, you don't bend, break, or compromise that for, anything.
Amazing.
And one of the things that I feel is really important for a lot of women is to acknowledge any type of uncomfortable feelings that you're having, but then figure out why, you know where did it stem from, and how to get over it so that you can continue to grow on. If you're in a state of trauma, then sometimes people stay in a state of trauma, and what you want to do is grow past it, and sometimes you have to face that, whatever that trauma was that kept you paralyzed, and acknowledge it, but don't allow it to suppress you. Don't allow it to hold you back, and just, grab life and go. That's
Love
one of
it.
the things I learned from my grandparents. Like, you know what? Nothing is sketched in stone. Nothing is, there's not a perfect book that will tell you this is going to happen and this is what you should do. But
Mm.
having a great attitude and also putting God in your life will allow you to get over different hurdles and will allow you to find the true you so that you can grow and just really have an amazing experience in this game of life.
Oh, I love it. My last question for you is, what message do you hope other women especially younger women entering the beauty and fashion space, could take away from your journey and your philosophy of staying calm under pressure?
One of the, I guess, suggestions I would have for a younger person, don't be so hard on yourself. You know,
Mm,
a lot of times, a lot of young people, they're very hard on themselves and they're very critical about, where they are. Trust me, if you told me that this is where I would be from where I started, I would probably tell you I don't know. I just never saw it coming, right?
yeah,
But I will tell you that one thing that helps is to find a mentor, find someone that they really want to work with you. They really want to see you grow. And as a person that is entering into a new field, be open minded and take any suggestions and feedback that they have to give you. Because if a person is already years deep in the industry and they can give you insight on a road that is uncertain, to a road that this obstacle might come up, but this is how you're going to deal with this. And
yeah,
if this happens, this is how you should, approach this. That is so very helpful and it's so very motivating to be able to navigate through rough waters. But knowing that you have somebody that is giving you the keys to be able to ride the wave without
exactly.
getting thrown off. And so I would
Mhm.
tell young people, you know don't put so much pressure on yourself. Have fun while you're going through the process, because nothing is going to be perfect. You're going to have the times where you're like, oh my god, like I never expected this. But then you're going to have your wins, and your wins are going to really make you feel elated, and
Yeah,
you're going to it's going to make you feel empowered, and you're going to love what you're doing because of that feeling of gratitude and the feeling of just being grateful.
that is just beautiful. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming online and sharing your story with us today. It always inspires me when I find young entrepreneurs who are out there doing their thing, being an example of what's possible. And you've certainly used your passion, your life experience, your skills to create a very unique brand. So kudos to you for doing what you're doing and sharing it with other women.
Well, I would like to thank you, Gertrude, for allowing me again to be a part of Her Story Summit. And I think what you offer, all the amazing women that are going to be, sharing different thoughts, um, it's just great gratitude to you. And I appreciate you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Don't go away.
Okay.
We're going to take a little break, everybody. We will be back again at, let me see, our schedule in an hour's time. So stretch, go for a walk. We've got more speakers coming online in an hour's time. We'll be back online. Thank you so much for listening so far.